And welcome back to the show. Throughout this pandemic, New York City has received limited assistance from the federal government to deal with the difficult financial times. The COVID-19 pandemic has ravaged communities in the Bronx. Within days, small businesses were shuttered, mass layoffs, and strained households, as well as food insecurity exploding throughout the district. Today, these issues continue to disproportionately affect their community, resulting in even more pain as families struggle to survive the pandemic. Our next guest has taken the initiative to build partnerships to find and deliver food with local volunteers, as well as fighting for additional grab-and-go food sites and providing resources to access workforce development opportunities. Here to share more information is the district leader of the 82nd Assembly District Part B and candidate for the 13th City Council District, Marjorie Velazquez. And Marjorie, good to have you here.
Hi, Jamie. Happy New Year. Great to see you and great to hear your voice. And what a year it's been.
Yeah, it has been a year, but thanks be to God, we're all here and we're able to talk about it on one way, shape, or form, even though it's virtual and we're not in studio. Glad to have you with us. I want to talk a little bit about this whole issue of food insecurity. I know that it's front and center for you as well. COVID-19 has definitely exacerbated the issue of food insecurity, but I know that you're trying to do some things. Talk to us about what you've learned about food insecurity, or even if you can, give us a better picture of food insecurity within your very own district.
So when I launched my mutual aid back at the beginning of the pandemic, it was to facilitate a need, right? And I think as the pandemic has stretched as long as it has, we've seen that there's no real face, right? The need is there. And I think in the past, people have thought, oh, only people like this need it. No, there's a real need throughout the community, and it's folks that are your neighbors. And what I've seen that it's the most beautiful thing, it's neighbors sticking up for each other. It's neighbors. I have a friend who has a chicken coop and she brings eggs to folks. And it's that niche, right? It's that small thought of thinking of your neighbors and giving out, right? And then there's another neighbor who has access to bread. And so she brings it. So what we did initially was reach out to folks. What do you need? Do a small little food shopping for them in Spanish. So immediately my brain calls like compritas, right? Compras. That's what we call it, right? So we shop a little compras, and then it expanded greatly. And for me, why I'm even running is this one particular person who reached out. She was one of the first people to reach out, and she called twice. And so I understood the urgency. I show up, and after I delivered, I get a text message in response thanking me and basically saying that this was the only food that her household had for the night. And if anything, they were not going to eat. And this is a mom, a dad, and a 9-year-old child. And it absolutely crushed me to a point where I realized that we need to do better. We need to give more to folks, and we need to actually galvanize the whole community. And so what did I do? I reached out to my partners, right? And I have different partners in government, and I have different community partners, and we organized to make sure that we had food on the table for our community. And not just within my district, we expanded throughout the Bronx. And now what you've seen is more forces joining up to say, you know what, let's also provide fridges, right? So I'm very proud to have teamed up with the Allerton Fridge, the Parkchester Fridge, right by the Oval in Hugh Grant Circle. And it's these important steps, right? You see the immediate need, and you understand that there's more than we could all give. If it's something small, so small as to making the phone call to organize the food drop-offs, if it's something a little bit bigger, like a donation to the groups that are actively accepting funds, like Loving the Bronx, who's actively participating in the Grow NYC, also giving out food in the fridge. It's meeting the groups together and merging them together and understanding that we're a bigger community than what we think. And we're not just one, and we are all, and we got to do this.
Right. And you're raising your voice as a leader in that community. You're also running for the city council. Talk to us about that, because you're seeking to see what are the things that you're seeing within your district that say, listen, you know what? I want to be a part. I want to go to city council and do something.
Well, this is not my first rodeo, if you will. I ran back in 2017 on kind of the similar premise, right? That our education system here needs to be fully funded. And what we've noticed, especially during the pandemic, is that our children are left behind. We don't have all the technology that we were promised. Our children don't have the accessibility to proper Wi-Fi, to proper devices, to a proper facility when they return. When we're talking about transportation, we're still in a transit desert. Thank God that we're trying to get this ferry service up and running now within the district at Ferry Point Park, but it was a fight. And we still have accessibility issues within our trains, and we need to find better ways to get our folks going. And lastly, got to build our businesses back up again. Small businesses are shuttering down. They were shutting down beforehand. This pandemic has made it even worse. Businesses as old as 40 years are now closing their doors because they don't have the proper support, not just from the federal government or the state, but the city has really disinvested in them. And it's not fair. And it's taking a real meaningful approach. For me, it's literally going day by day, reaching out to the small businesses. Do you know that these grants are available? Do you know that this is available to you? And it's also holding folks accountable and holding people that are at the decision-making table and say, where are you? What are you doing? And why have you let us down?
So as we look right now across the city, we see definitely some failure in those areas. And then we could also look on a national level and see some failures. Talk to me. I mean, I got to ask your perspective on the events of last week. We saw the storming of the Capitol. Your thoughts as you watched in real time. The Capitol, the United States Capitol, the seat of democracy, literally be done away with almost by domestic terrorists.
So you're gonna have to give me like a couple of 2 seconds because it's still very real and very raw for me. I have both friends and family in DC. I started off that morning very excited, very happy because it's January 6th and Three Kings is very big to me and my family. Dia de los Reyes, we've celebrated my whole life. And especially with that Warnock win that was epic that morning that we were celebrating. And it looked like Ossoff was gonna win as well. And it was before it was called in the afternoon. And we were celebrating. And it was reaching out to friends and celebrating. And then it changed. It changed when I got a text from a dear friend saying that they were being removed from the Capitol because there was a bomb threat. And then it literally escalated those text messages to what we saw unfolding. And it's tough. It's tough to understand that 5 lives were lost. And it could have been my friends. It could have been my family. And it's a betrayal. What we saw, it's a betrayal against us all. If you call yourself an American, what we saw, it's folks trying to go against the very nature of what makes us American, the diversity of the folks that work there, our representatives. And just at the end of the day, who we are as a people, as a government, as the strongest government. You had this insurrection. Folks need to be held accountable.
Right. I think, when we think about crime for a moment, right? And when you think about crime, one of the things that you hear about crime is when it happens in certain neighborhoods, this is the familiar phrase, oh, we're such a good neighborhood, this never happens here. We're totally surprised. And then we saw this insurrection happen. And when we saw this insurrection happen, I think a lot of people said, we're America. We're used to fighting against foreign terrorists, but now to have domestic terrorists the way that we do, how do you feel? You're engaging in a political process right now. You're looking for elected office, and you're looking to seek a seat in elected office in a democracy that's not so democratic.
It's also who I am, right? I am a Latina. I've been in spaces that were not designed necessarily for me. And speaking up and making sure that I'm not just there for myself, I am there for a community is what leads me through, right? Definitely being in rooms and hearing things said as if I don't hear or understand them. It's taking that initiative and saying that I'm not just fighting for one, I'm fighting for all. And I think it was an eye-opener for many folks who, like me, look, you're a New York City kid, you grew up in the Bronx, right? Like your life is diverse, right? You have friends from everywhere. And so you wouldn't understand it necessarily. So when someone tells you what they're fighting for, right? And that all these discrimination things happen, you don't necessarily see it. But now, clearly, people saw it firsthand on Wednesday that there are groups of people who want to deny my existence, your existence. And that hurts. And it hurts in a big way. And what do we do, right? Because that's not American. American is coming from all walks of the world and saying that we believe in this country to develop us all. This is a country that gives us an opportunity to be together, to be united. What we saw was a group trying to divide us, and it's not what we are and not who we are. And we're going to fight that in our own way here, which is building up. And that's how I fight back, right? I fight back by empowering our voices, to making sure that we are fighting for what belongs to us, and it's proper education, it's proper transportation. That is the ability to exist and to develop our community and give our community the priorities and the things that they need to be successful. And what does that look like? It looks like holding folks accountable on every level and saying we need more because we deserve more. We've been out during this pandemic. My community members are some of the top essential workers out there. They need the respect, and they need to have a life with dignity of what they took on last year, and we need to respect them for that. What we saw Wednesday was a lack of respect. It was a betrayal on us and everything that we fought for so much.
You mentioned running for the city council before. You're running again. And so I'll ask the question, what do you do this time differently?
Well, the landscape is different to begin with. We built upon our work in 2017. We also are in a different world where we have ranked choice voting. My opponent at the time, both during the primary and the general, did not secure 50% of the vote, which, especially in a highly Democratic district like mine, was very surprising to not garner that 50% of the vote in the general. And what does that mean? It means that new voices are empowered to run. And that's why you see ranked choice voting now bringing a lot of folks running in 2021. It's like 88 candidates running in New York City. So that's city council seats, that's mayor, that's everything all combined. And it's a beautiful thing to see what democracy looks like. And it is, to run a race that people believe. I think people saw my story, right? 2017, me running against big power players, me running against big money, right? It was more than $1 million invested in a race, which was never heard of before. And we came really close. And that spoke to our commitment for the community. And it really spoke to what our volunteers believed in. And certainly now we've built on that, right? We have the support of Senator Biaggi. We have the support of former council member Jimmy Vaca, just to name a few. And it's to add on to building our community, making sure that our community is our interest, not special interests controlling our community.
And you talk about investing in people. I want to know the platforms. One of your platforms is investing in people and not really investing in millionaires. And you really want to see the money go towards the people and the resources go towards the people. Give us a little bit of your breakdown as to how you see that playing out, investing in people and not millionaires.
Investing in people, what does that look like? It looks like building on our infrastructure, make sure that we have an opportunity to have the best abilities and the best offers. When I ran back in 2017, I remember this one young lady saying that she had to quit her job in Manhattan because it was taking her about an hour and a half to get there. It's not fair. And so now that we have this ferry service, we're allowing folks to, have jobs in the city and come back home. But it's also about what are we doing creating jobs here locally? It's what are we doing with the infrastructure that we have, right? And so many opportunities. Now that all these storefronts are vacant, why not have an ability to allow for pop-up shops? Why not make sure that these small groups get together and have an ability to rent out those spaces? What we've seen, especially with the commercial real estate, is some real nastiness going. I have a friend who has a beauty parlor, and beauty parlors were shut down until June, July, and she had her landlord literally calling her every single month saying, "You still owe." And she's like, "Look, I'm not open. I'm not bringing any money. How can you charge me?" And he's like, "I don't care. You're going to have to find it one way or another." And that's what I say. You got to hold folks accountable. Look, I understand this is tough on everyone. We have mortgages, we have rent. There has to be a meeting of the mind. There has to be an opportunity for banks to actually make sure that they're not giving fines, they're not giving penalties anymore on late mortgages, because it's just the right thing to do. We bailed banks out in 2008. It's now time for them to step up and make sure that they're taking care of our homeowners. They're taking care of our businesses in a real substantial way, not just like, hey, this is a little something here, or I'm just going to eliminate these like $2 fees. No, it's really comes back to microloans. It comes to real investment in our communities.
We talk about investing in the community. Obviously, that's the reason why you decided that you want to run for the city council. Talk to us a little bit more before we get out of here as to how people can find out more about your campaign and where people can get connected.
Sure. We have a website and we're on all social media. So our website is mvel.nyc. And our social media is the same, all those handles. So on Twitter, it's at mvelaznyc. At Instagram and at Facebook, it's the same. So feel free to follow us. We are gearing up our fellowship program this week. So if you want to volunteer, feel free to reach out and sign up. Today is the last day of our fundraising. So if you have a couple of bucks that you would like to send, if you're a New York City resident, it is matched 8-1. So a $10 contribution can lead up to 90 because we add the 80. And that's what helps us too. It's to get our mission and get our movement going and uniting folks and letting everyone know that we're still here and we're here for you.
Marjorie Velazquez, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us and being with us here on the Social Justice Forums.
Thank you. Take care.